My thanks to the organisers for the opportunity to speak today. I'm not able to be with you in person, but I join you by this recording. I have to add that I'm not a professional translator by any means, but took on the job to help Fionnuala. I thought it'd be easy to translate a few proverbs, have done courses in translation, but I became so bogged down in the work that I had to ask for help. I'll use my frustrations to show you what I learned about translating. I also like to show how proverbs are important to Irish language teaching. In the book, I translated the Derry proverb into Irish, and Fionnuala provided an equivalent Irish proverb. Fionnuala draws upon the massive schools project of the 1930s, during which school children collected local folklore. This became a huge corpus which is now available online at duchas.ie. 20% of the material is in Irish. At the time of the school's collection, there was no standard spelling system for the Irish language, and children often wrote in a way which revealed their distinctive dialects and pronunciation. And good dialect means good language, so that's good. There are three main dialects in Irish spoken by native speakers: Kerry, Galway and Donegal, with smaller populations in Cork and Mayo. Most people in Northern Ireland learn Donegal Irish. A standardised written form of the language was introduced in 1958, and a standard lexicon followed. However, there's no agreed pronunciation, and most learners just pick the dialect of the area closer to them. Standard Irish was seen as artificial by older native speakers and was often called Book Irish. There's a strong northern bias in the book. There are 22 Donegal proverbs from the school's collection, more than from any other area. There are even 5 proverbs in Monaghan, an Ulster dialect which was extinct by about 1936. I believe. The dialect is intriguing in itself, it's not very well known, and it might come as a surprise to some that Irish is spoken in Monaghan at all, let alone Tyrone, Armagh and the Glens of Antrim at one time. People who think Irish is a foreign language in Northern Ireland, please take note. We have updated the spelling of the school children, but we've not changed the dialect forms. In this example, the relative form of the verb meaning to make is non-standard, asachera anichra na chashlan, which means castles are built gradually. We've simplified the spelling of the verb for built according to the 1958 rules. So GHNIDH becomes NI with an acute accent, much shorter. The standard version of the verb would be yenter, but we've not bothered with that. Asachera yenter na chashlan. But we left that out. The proverbs appear older and more authentic for being pre-standard. After all, the word in Irish for proverb is shanachal, or old word. When I was learning Donegal Irish, proverbs were used to teach me dialect forms. They are perceived to be little gold nuggets of 24-carat pure Irish, not just pearls of wisdom, but great for their language. When translating proverbs, I had to be sure if they had negative or positive connotations. If we look at this one, while we live, we strive. The word strive has positive connotations and hints at improving or succeeding at something, but the meaning given has a negative connotation. Life is full of challenges. People must work hard to overcome them. So strive here means to struggle, and so my translation is Adas a waramage as thrakal shavimage. As long as we live, we struggle. The choice from the school's collection could be either positive or negative in this context. It's only coarse tale. There's many a twist to life. As well as the correct meaning, I want to convey some of the qualities of proverbs: brevity, rhyming, and some alliteration. Now, this is a tall order for a learner of Irish, and very tricky indeed. In terms of alliteration, I was very pleased by my Irish translation of the Derry proverb, "Everyone's home is Kashmir to them," which is translated as Ish Kashmir de Chach a Chankter Duchishen, which is full of K and Ch sounds. Translation also reveals an aspect of Irish called fronting, during which the emphasis on the sentence is revealed in the word order. So if you spoke the English of the west of Ireland, which is influenced by Irish, you may have a different word order in your speech. If I asked you, "Where are you going?" you might reply, "It's to the conference I'm going." Rather, "I'm going to the conference." When are you going? It's Saturday I'm going, and so on. The main point of what's being said is brought forward or fronted. So the Irish form of the proverb brings Kashmir forward. This is an important aspect of Irish syntax that English speakers often forget when they speak Irish, as it's not a feature of their own language. They stress the word, but they don't move it around like the Irish do. Proverbs are a good way of teaching fronting because they're so short and memorable. Here's another example of fronting the Afghan proverb. The Afghan proverb, a river is made drop by drop, becomes literally drop upon drop is made the river. Brain or brain, a yenter an owen. Back to the word Kashmir, you might wonder why there's an Irish language version of this city. Children who are taught through Irish use Irish language atlases, and some major cities will have Irish language versions. If you can't find the word you're looking for in the online dictionaries, you can ask An Costa Chermiacta, the Irish Council of the Language, to create one for you. I did this for a list of amenities in East Belfast. The airport was tricky. Is it the George Best Airport of Belfast City or the Belfast City Airport of George Best? Committee plumped for the latter. And multiple genitives are very difficult to translate in Irish, and thankfully I didn't have to do this for this book. But it's important to prove to children learning Irish that the language has a word for everything, that it is a living language. Ideally, I should provide a form of an authentic form of Irish which does not portray too much English influence. English has influenced the Irish language for centuries, but the expectations that proverbs, being 24-karat gold, are so old are free of English corruption. This was difficult for me as I am a native speaker of English, who's learned Irish as a second language, so English will influence my Irish. But it's a general dilemma in the world of translation because most translators of Irish are native speakers of English. I had another problem. I was really stumped by some proverbs. They seemed too difficult to translate. I should have listened to the Derry proverb, extend your feet the length of the carpet. This means don't take on more than you can handle. So, feeling overwhelmed, I asked a native speaker of Irish, who's an author and a friend of mine, Roshni Wheel, to help me get my feet back on the carpet. She asked not to be credited for her help in this work, but I have to acknowledge her here. She provided at least 12 radical revisions of my translations and tweaked many others. So I appear to be much better in Irish than I really am. She was the co-translator really for the Irish proverbs, and I took the final decisions. If we take an example of a problem I had, we can look at the Derry proverb, comes late, comes right. My literal translation was, an rud a hagan mal, tagan sé gyart. That which comes well comes correctly. In this case, I was providing a word-for-word translation, which means little in Irish. The word come is simply a verb of motion here. Am I suggesting that a bus which arrives late is better than one which arrives early? If we stand back and look at the meaning of the proverb, we learn that it's about doing or making things slowly, so that they're better as a result. So Rosh's translation is more spot on. Ad rud a yenter gomal, gentry gyarte. That which is made slowly is made correctly. Apart from translation problems, you may be wondering if there are any cultural differences revealed by the proverbs. The sayings do reveal some insights into Afghan culture. If we look at cuisine, for example, I don't think you'll hear an Irish speaker saying, you cannot hold 2 watermelons in one hand. And there are 2 mentions of a popular kind of noodle soup in the proverbs, and 3 references to carpets in 38 proverbs. I searched through a book of proverbs in Ulster Irish, but didn't find a single reference to a carpet. Then there's a Derry proverb, don't throw snow from your roof to ours. This means don't blame other people for your troubles. Ireland has roofs and snow. Why do we have a proverb like this? Because our roofs are sloping, whereas many roofs in Afghanistan are flat, so people spend more time on them. I had an interesting problem with this proverb. An old sandal in the desert is a blessing. You may think that the problem was the word sandal, because it's too wet in Ireland to wear sandals. Not so, because Irish monks have worn sandals for centuries. The Irish word for sandal is curan, or curved object. The problem was the word for desert. The word that came to mind was fasach, which is the usual Irish word for a wilderness or somewhere where people don't live. But this is based on the word fas, which means to grow. Hence it suggests an overgrown place. This seems to be the opposite of a desert. I found the solution while browsing through an Irish language Bible. The word ganivlach, which means area of sand, a desert. So I'd like to end on this happy note. I had no problem translating the proverb, Jesus to his religion and Moses to his. Bí a chreidh hénach Isa, agus a chreidh hénach mish. This, I believe, is a core theme of the project and the book. Toleration can be translated. As we can see from the Proverbs, we have the same problems and solutions no matter what language we speak. Good amorgav, thank you, and please enjoy the rest of the conference.
The book is one of a series devised by Edward Zellum. When he was posted to Afghanistan, he soon became fluent in Dari, one of the country's 2 official languages, and he quickly noticed the frequent use of proverbs in everyday speech, those poetic gems of advice. He noticed them because of their features like alliteration, rhyme, and repetition, as in the following, which is one of those featured in the book. Tu ba ma ba tu. You to me to you. Zellum wished to show that there was more to Afghanistan than war and sought help to produce bilingual books of a selection of Dari proverbs. A beauty of the proverb is that it is a form that occurs internationally. Many proverbs show that people in very different parts of the world, such as Ireland and Afghanistan, share common interests and concerns. I met Edward Zellum at a proverb conference and later agreed to help create a version of the book in which the Dari proverbs would be coupled with proverbs found in Irish. Each proverb has its own page with an illustration of it facing it. I'll just move on. So here we have the artists, the children in Kabul High School, who illustrated the proverbs. Sadly, this school closed down in August last year. To date, this selection of Dari proverbs has been paired with over 20 different languages. While these are mostly European, French, German, Spanish, to mention some, there are also some versions in East Asian languages, Korean and Thai. All of the books are bilingual. However, the Irish version of the book is trilingual, with proverbs in Dari and Irish and literal translations of both in English, so making it much more widely accessible than a version simply in Dari and Irish. Not only are the proverbs useful to those in Irish medium schools and so on, but also to non-Irish speakers. The book is for the children of Ireland and Afghanistan, and to those who are working for peace and security. The dedication ending with, as the proverb says, and here I would like to ask Fatima to say the proverb in Dari.
Okay, it's کوه هر قدر بلند باشد سر خود راه دارد.
Thanks, Fatima. So even if a mountain is very high, it has a path to the top. The book's opening pages introduce the Dari language. Zellum tells us that it is ancient and has been called the language of kings, and that it may be an older form of Persian, the language of neighboring Iran. There are 32 letters in the Dari alphabet. It has its own distinctive script, which is not the same as Arabic, but like it is written from right to left. Following a map of Afghanistan and another showing its position in the world It's slightly larger than France and has a population of over 30 million people made up of several groups speaking different languages. There's a brief pronunciation guide then to Dari by Zellum. The final page of the opening introduces the Irish proverbs. Since children were closely involved with the book, as Gordon said earlier, I selected the proverbs from the mid-20th century schools collection, which is now part of the Irish National Folklore Collection. At that time, the Folklore Commission, which organised the collection, was in Ireland's Department of Education. Through the scheme, older boys and girls up to the school leaving age of 14 sought proverbs and other folklore from their families and neighbours. This resulted in the largest collection of proverbs in Irish and English that there is and is ever likely to be. Proverbs are easily recorded by children because they are short, only one sentence long, and because of their poetic nature, containing, as I mentioned, things like alliteration, repetition, and also rhythm, and so on. As I say in the introduction to the Irish language proverbs, in order to assist their comprehension, they are rendered in modern orthography, but one which preserves their pronunciation, and Gordon went into that in more detail, showing an example. The layout of the subsequent right-hand pages begins first with the Dari proverb in its script. Below this, the proverb in Roman letters, and then word for word English and Irish translations of it. And I'm very grateful to Gordon for kindly providing these Irish translations.
So it says, با یک گل بهار نمیشه.
Thanks. So, thank you, Fatima. One flower doesn't bring spring, the literal translation in English. Ní higgin tarach leis an bhla amháin. A meaning of the proverb, or when it might be used, is then provided by Edward Zellum. And then comes the Irish proverb, Ní dhéanann fanlóg amháin an saru. One swallow doesn't make the summer. And its literal translation in English. It sounds a little bit complicated, but you know, by looking at the book itself, you'll see the actual way it runs. Gordon referred to the next proverb. It can be found in both Europe and Asia. So Fatima will say it in Dari.
پایت را به اندازه گلمت دراز کن.
Thank you. So extend your legs to the length of your carpet. And this is one of the commonest European proverbs, as well as being widespread in Asia. The carpet in the Dari version is the bed covering. So in European examples, we find equivalent words such as cover and sheet. The Irish version that I give in the book, Caithfí tú de chóta de ghearú de réir de gréasan, you have to cut your coat according to your roll of cloth, aligns with other European versions. While not, let's just get rid of this page. While not too many in the book are actually the very same proverb in Dari and Irish, I was able to find others which are reasonably similar, such as for
کفش کهنه در بیابان نعمت است.
Thank you. Another one that Gordon referred to. I used Isfar Lachwulin Naveg an Aaron. Half a loaf is better than no bread. And again for
قطره قطره دریا میشه.
I used Bjorgan Gominnik, Alinen and Sparran. Little and often fills the purse. For others, I could find no Irish language version or anything reasonably similar. Among these are as
خاطر یک کی گلم را نسوزان.
Don't burn a carpet for a flea. Meaning, for example, don't overreact to a problem. And also
سر زنده باشه کلاه بسیار است.
If there's life in your head, there are lots of hats, meaning that being alive means that it's possible to become anything. But all of these scenarios provide opportunities for discussion in the classroom or any other learning situation. Why does such and such a proverb occur in Dari and not in Irish? Can you create an equivalent in Irish? After the proverbs in the book come some photographs of the children in their school in Kabul. And the book finishes with an index of words of the things that the proverbs express: cooperation, hypocrisy, truth, and so on. Earlier, I touched on the style of proverbs, how they are poetic, removed from everyday speech because of their meter and so on, a rich aspect to develop with older children. For today, Fatima Sarwari meticulously listed the Dari proverbs according to such features. It seems that contrast, black, white, fast, slow, and so on, is the most prevalent feature of this particular selection of Dari proverbs, closely followed by rhyme. What features occur most frequently in Irish proverbs? Nearly all proverbs are metaphors and can be applied to many situations, so there's an opportunity to discuss when different proverbs might be used. The artwork here shows how children living in Kabul in a war situation interpreted one proverb. This one, for instance, depicts a person carrying an amputee through a minefield. How would children living here, and indeed children here of Afghan heritage, depict them? One proverb reminded a child illustrator of a fable being a folk tale with animal characters. Like proverbs, folk tales are international, and indeed this tale, the stork and the fox, also occurs in Ireland. So, as well as the proverbs, there are other aspects that can be picked up in the book. Just get the last page here. Oops. And as Gordon mentioned, other pictures give glimpses of everyday Afghan life: dress, food, plants and animals, and so on. The book is a recognition and affirmation of Afghan culture, as well as providing a link to the Irish language and Irish proverbs, and is potentially a validation and support within families here of Afghan heritage. Because it's trilingual, it's accessible to all. For those who need or wish to know more about Afghanistan, and in particular the Dari language, teachers, librarians, and other educators and community workers, the book could be a useful and unique resource. Afghan Proverbs Illustrated, among other things, provides an opportunity to consider proverbs in Irish in a new light, not something existing in isolation, but connected with a wider world. Thank you very much, and thanks to Fatima. Thank you. I think you sit down now.